What's up guys, it's me, Jeremy. Throughout the history of the League of Legends metagame, there's been loads of items that have totally dominated the meta and created some crazy game states. We'll be measuring these items based on how strong they were at the time, as well as how they shaped the meta as a whole. And we won't be considering potions or wards as valid items, as well as we will only look at items that existed from Season 1 onwards. Anyways, let's get started. At number 10 we have Runic Bulwark. Back in Season 3 this item built out of Aegis and is one of the only items to ever give health, armor, and magic resistance at the same time, while also giving an insane aura to your team overall. The amount of raw tank stats you would get for your whole team was so insane that it wasn't uncommon for an entire game to be won based off of which team finished their bulwark first. Since if one team had a bulwark and the other did not, team fights were swung completely due to the armor and magic resistance that your team could get, so there would be quite often about 3 or 4 bulwarks between the two teams every single game, and was extremely important for team fighting, and it has since been removed from the game. At number 9 we have Feral Flare. In the Season 4 jungle, Riot introduced this item as a way to give farm-heavy junglers an impact in the game, but with the super cheap cost of this item and crazy high scaling, this item quickly dominated the jungle meta by causing junglers to have tons of damage and lifesteal, all of which scaled up infinitely into the late game at the cost of only 1800 gold. Not to mention the fact that the active gave you a ward every 3 minutes, making the item have crazy utility overall. You could often stack it up in just 10 minutes or so as well, so you wouldn't even have to sacrifice too much of the early game for insane stats later on at a super cheap cost. Every jungler was building this item, and those that couldn't would just not succeed in the jungle at the time, and so it was removed from the game. At number 8 on the list, it's Sightstone. Although it may be a little underappreciated as an item since it's been around for so long, as soon as it was introduced, Sightstone completely dominated the support item meta and changed it for good, and became a must-buy on every support ever, as well as on a lot of junglers too throughout the years. You will quite easily place over 2,000 gold worth of wards from this item as the game goes on, and potentially even more depending on how long the game lasted. I would argue that Sightstone in its current state is the second most gold effective item of all time. The raw value that comes out of this 800 gold buy is so unbelievable, and if you ever played support back in Season 2, you'll remember having to buy often 30 to 50 or more wards a game for 75 gold each, and Sightstone alone caused supports to be able to actually buy items, and change their meta entirely because of it. Next up for number 7 we have Relic Shield. When it was first released, the power of a double Relic Shield lane gave such a large amount of gold for the two players that for about a week or two until it got nerfed, junglers straight up did not exist in the game. The power of starting Relic Shield and having both laners share CS for each other single-handedly removed jungling from the meta at the time, since the gold value that Relic Shield gave was so powerful and gave the lane so much sustain and health that it became a ridiculously dominant strategy. At number 6 we have Elixir of Fortitude. Back when this item was super strong, it was common to see all 10 players on the map, or more realistically about 8 or so, take this as a starting item. It only costed 250 gold and would give you more stats than any starting item ever has in the game, and could easily be used to go for a kill or for a surprise health boost that could definitely save your life. It was not uncommon to see some champions buy this 5 or 6 times throughout the entire laning phase, and it caused the meta to be completely dominated by early game champions, since they could all in with this item so easily and really made any strong early game bully absolutely insane, and just impossible to lane against until their elixir ran out. And so even if you didn't win a fight with it, you could easily use it to gain a big enough CS advantage to purchase another one later on, or to snowball the lane in your favor, and so the item has since been heavily nerfed. At number 5 we have Oracle's Elixir. This one's pretty interesting, but I rank it so highly since it had an extremely big strategical influence on the game. No one item in League has ever had the strategy revolve so heavily around it like Oracle's did. And with this item that gave you the full extent to clear any wards you wanted, it caused the entire game to be late game focused and have everyone play farm lanes, since junglers were so scary at the time, since they could clear any wards that they wanted to from the safety of their jungle with their Oracle's Elixir. Although it might not have gave some crazy stats like other items, you would quite often pay for itself in the wards you cleared, since at the time Sightstone and Trinkets didn't exist, so everyone had to pay the full 75 gold to buy a ward, and so you only had to clear 5 wards to cover the gold cost, and even then it was already totally worth it, and you could control the map so effectively that you would eliminate all early pressure from the enemy team, since everyone became so scared of the jungler with an early oracles. The item has since been removed, and for good reason. Next up at number 4 we have the upgraded trinkets. For the purposes of this, I've grouped all of the upgraded trinkets into one item, but I said earlier that Sightstone was the second most gold effective item of all time, and well, upgraded trinkets are arguably the first. For only 250 gold, you can actually get almost as much value as a Sightstone from these items, and every single player in the game should ideally be upgrading their trinkets the instant they hit level 9. The value and utility an upgraded trinket gives is so ridiculously good, and it's so freaking cheap that it seriously shocks me how many people forget to upgrade them. At number 3 we have Blade of the Ruined King. A couple patches after this item was released, it got reworked into a monster of an item that was crazy powerful. The raw stats it gave were insane, and the active on it was changed to be so ridiculous. It caused the meta to be shaped entirely around champions that could use this item, since bruisers and duelists were so crazy strong with the active and passives, as well as the stats. Heck, I remember champions like Singed would build this item, since the active was just so freaking good, and it gave you so much damage through the stats and passive. It became a must buy on all AD champions and was built on pretty much all top laners, junglers, and AD carries, as well as any AD mid laners. At number 2 we have Warmog's armor. In the preseason to season 3, Warmog's armor completely dominated the meta, and the phrase League of Warmogs was coined, and you would literally buy this item on everyone, even on supports, even on mid laners, and oftentimes you would just keep stacking it. It was so incredibly cost effective and powerful and cheap that you could really fit it into anyone's build path, and although it took a little bit of a while to rise up due to some other items, this item completely dominated the meta and controlled everyone's item builds by making everyone ridiculously tanky. This caused the entire meta to be shaped around tanks, one of the first tank metas actually, and caused every champion in the entire game to be playable as a tank, and really created a crazy game state. And at number 1, we have Black Cleaver. No item has ever caused such a massive power shift in the meta, and the League of Black Cleavers completely shaped the meta entirely and caused champions such as Talon and Riven, as well as some other AD bruisers, to have their win rate single-handedly rise up by as much as 10% at some point. You would end up building this item on literally everyone, even on support sometimes, and quite often 3 or 4 champions on your team would stack this item, causing there to be almost 20 to 25 or more Black Cleavers to be purchased by the end of the game between the two teams. The stats and power it gave were so insane for how cheap the item was, and everything stacked up, and you could stack the armor shred so fast in combo with your damage that you would just melt targets, all while still being somewhat tanky due to the health it gave. The entire meta revolved around this item completely until it got nerfed a ton and has since been reworked. Hey guys, it's me, Jeremy. Thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, definitely make sure to hit that like button so I can tell, as well as you can check me out on Facebook and Twitter at Gaming Curios. And check me out on Twitch too, I do weekly streams. And if you really enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe, as well as you can check out some of my other content up above. Anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you so much for watching, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.